Since 9/11, foreign policy towards the Muslim world has become a major and a very controversial issue in American foreign policy. Politicians do not only have different suggestions of how to deal with the terrorist threat, they also have different attitudes towards the Muslim world, which definitely influences their foreign policy decisions. George W. Bush and Barack Obama are two extremes reflecting this controversy. Bush is of the opinion that the expansion of Islamism in the world needs to be prevented, and that the best way to do this is by waging a war against the rogue states, as he calls them. Without a UN resolution and without thinking about any diplomatic solutions, he decided to invade Iraq and overthrow Saddam Hussein. Right from the beginning of his presidency, Obama chose a different way. He approached the Muslim world, drawing clear lines of distinction between the terrorists and the Muslim population. Moreover, he emphasized his willingness to reach out his hand to Muslim citizens and assured them that the US would listen to them and their concerns. To my mind, the president's different worldviews can best be explained by their upbringing. Obama grew up in a multicultural background. His father came to the US as an immigrant from Kenya. When his parents got divorced, his mother married an Indonesian student. In Indonesia, Obama was not only exposed to people from Muslim backgrounds, but also to many different types of denominations. Also, his high school in Hawaii provided a multicultural education. One aspect which clearly sets him apart from Bush is that Obama was constantly searching for identity. In contrast to that, Bush grew up in a typical upper-class American family and developed a strong connection to his homeland. Moreover, he was certainly influenced by his father, who had also fought a war against Saddam Hussein while being US president. Another factor which certainly influences Bush's foreign policy decisions is his faith. He calls himself a reborn Christian and often refers to God in his speeches. It is also because of his faith that he seems to draw simplistic conclusions about the world, dividing it into good and evil. In many of his speeches he talks about the axis of evil, referring to several states populated by Muslims. This became really obvious in his 9/11 speech, which concentrated on terms such as terrorism and enemy. Moreover, it is full of moral illusions and thus divides the world into good and evil, into the West and the rogue states. Obama's approach is the exact opposite. His Cairo speech is a good example of how he tries to reconcile the Muslim with the Western world. He emphasized that the faith should actually bring the three religions together, rather than building walls of separation. Moreover, he made a big effort to stress common values, and suggested that these commonalities should form a basis for a peaceful relationship. Another factor that obviously influences their policy decisions is party membership. Obama is a Democrat while Bush is a Republican. From a historical perspective, Republicans often regarded power politics as the most efficient way of dealing with a threat, while Democrats tended to emphasize diplomacy and multilateralism. Moreover, it is important to note that the international community pushed for a fundamental change in US politics. The UN demanded more multilateralism and diplomacy, as it was expressed in Annan's speech, in which he called the Iraq War an illegal war. Obama promises to follow this push for change. He tries to replace Bush's unilateralism with multilateralism and diplomacy, and thus acknowledges the importance of international cooperation and values global community.